And I'm grinding until I'm tired. They say you ain't grinding until you tired. So I'm grinding with my eyes wide, looking to find a way through the day, a life for the night. Dear Lord, you done took so many of my people. I'm just wondering why you haven't taken my life. Like what the hell am I doing right?
Yo, I just realized I was on mute. So, I'll try that again. What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Payoff Pitch, presented by Fantasy Phenom. I thought we'd do a public show today, or at least me, do a public show today since we didn't have a video last night. Take care of everybody. It is Friday. Looking to bring home some nice money heading into the weekend. I know we got a couple guys that are looking forward to playing a couple more lines today. So, gonna make sure we are all set and ready. We have most of the lines in as we speak. Let me just make sure I have them all up to date. Bigfoot is real. What is up, Marcos? Hope y'all are having a fantastic Friday. It is not too hot here in Sacktown, so it's nice. I know Jim can vouch for me on that one. Let's load that up. Bam. All right, well. Oh, this game already started. Just kidding. We're going to start here. LA and Baltimore. All right, so couple notes here. Anthony Santander is going to make his first appearance of the year. He was a Rule 5 pick that Baltimore picked up from the Indians. He's going to provide some outfield depth, and Joey Rickard was optioned to AAA. So he's going to be batting 7th today. He has minimum salary on FanDuel and almost minimum salary on DraftKings. And then we have on the other side Andrew Heaney, a lefty, making his, I believe it's his first start this year. Yes, he is back from Tommy John surgery. Let me see what I got for him in terms of stats. So he's pitched 3 years, 6-8 overall. He pitched a couple starts with Miami in 2014, 2015 with the LA Angels, 6-4, 18 games. He had 105 innings and 78 strikeouts. Is Hellickson pitching for Baltimore? Did they change that? He is pitching for Baltimore. Just kidding. Let's flip that up real quick. All that'll swap over in just a second. Good luck, good luck. So obviously a little different here. Dylan Bundy, Jeremy Hellickson, a little different. Obviously both of these guys had either been playing. Obviously saw the Angels in Anaheim. A little bit of a park shift, though, from that game. Go from a pitcher-friendly park in LA to a much more hitter-friendly park in Baltimore. I do believe there's rain concern here, though. Let me pull up the weather and make sure I have up to the date weather here. So today is the 18th. Looks like we have pretty... I think we should be good here. Looks like rain is going to be before the game starts, but it should clear out by game time. Boston is looking like the game that is not looking good. We're looking at 73% chance of rain at 8 p.m., 90% chance at 9 p.m. It does tail off, so we might see a late start there or a resumption of play. The Mets game looks bad as well. At game time, a 61% chance of rain, 51 at 8. Tails off a little bit at 9, but picks back up, so that might just be a complete postponement. All the other games look good to go. So that is your weather outlook. So I think Baltimore is probably the safest of those three to play, and I do like Tim Beckham leading off against Heaney. I like Scope probably the most out of anyone in this lineup, but Beckham is still relatively cheap on yo, what's up, Edwin? I yanked my Mets players. Yeah, Mets game and Boston game don't look good, but obviously this Baltimore game could postpone as well. I'd imagine this is just more of a delay threat, if anything, because it looks like the rain is coming before the game, not after. Yeah, Boston definitely has weather concerns. So I like Beckham Scope 2-man here. Machado's just a little too expensive for what I want to do. And then Santander, obviously, you have that as a punt option. I do like Caleb Joseph, especially on FanDuel for 2,500. He's hit lefties really well this year. So I would look there. And then for the Angels against Hellickson, I don't think I'm going to attack him here. We know what Mike Trout can do. Luis Valbuena, huge power upside, but also could go out and get 0 points. And then Crone, Maldonado, not going to play them. Caleb Cowart, he's 2,200 on DraftKings. I could see that as a viable punt option as well. Chris Davis is not playing. Pujols is playing. No Chris Davis tonight. We got St. Louis and Pittsburgh. I hate Pittsburgh, man. They never give us the lineup unless I am missing it, because I swear these guys wait until right before lock to give us lineups. Just making sure. Da-da-da. Nope, Pittsburgh is nowhere to be found. Yeah, Rob says if he stacks Baltimore, Scoop always makes that. And I agree, man. Scoop is the most consistent player on their team this year. And he's in an RBI spot, batting third. So, looking at St. Louis, Pittsburgh, Carlos Martinez, Trevor Williams. Martinez is pretty high priced, and I don't think I want to get to him today. You will get him at low ownership because of the two aces on the slate in Max and Kluber. But I do not. I think this is going to be a complete game fade for me, other than Carlos Martinez, to be honest with you. I really don't want to stack against Trevor Williams, who's been a nice story this year. Guy wasn't really anyone to watch for coming into the year, and has pitched really well. Done a good job of pitching to contact. He gets strikeouts when he needs to. He's not the highest upside guy. Again, not going to pitch him, but not a guy I typically look to attack. And then St. Louis has been hot. They obviously put up another 11 runs last night. We talked about them. Chicago White Sox, and Texas were the three stacks we were on last night. How scared am I of the Mets-Marlins game? I will not have the Mets-Marlins in my lineup. Them and Boston, New York will be the two games I am fading completely, especially pitchers. I don't think I was looking... The only guy I was looking at was Justin Nicolino from the Marlins because of the matchup, but can't pitch a pitcher in that weather concern, especially not on a day like today where you're going to have to hit. Carlos Martinez, Pittsburgh does not hit righties well at all, but limited upside with the K's, as even though they don't hit them, they don't strike out. So I don't see a ton of upside in Martinez, but I do see a safe floor. And so maybe if you're looking for a cash game play, if you're fading a Max and Kluber, Martinez could be a pay up mid-range / option depending on how you want to categorize him, and a safe play. We got the Dodgers and the Tigers. Rich Hill versus Jordan Zimmerman. Definitely like me some Dodgers today against Jordan Zimmerman. He's not very good. There's really no upside to him. And Dodgers I could see doing their thing. Really like Yasmani Grandal on both sides. He's a little cheaper than I think he should be as a catcher on both sides, and he's hitting fifth. Love that. Not going to have any Adrian Gonzalez. Not going to waste my first base position on him, although he makes his return to the lineup. Love 2 through 5 really on the Dodgers. Seager, Turner, Bellinger, Grandal. Can't forget about Chris Taylor, but I love. If I have to pick 3, it's going to be Seager, Bellinger, Grandal. I'm going to attack Jordan Zimmerman with lefties. He's bad versus both sides, but lefties hit him a little better. So I'll take the power lefties in this situation. And then Detroit against Rich Hill, I think. I'm definitely not pitching Rich Hill. Let's put it that way. Not in an American League Park. Detroit at home versus lefties. Versus lefties overall is great, but at home versus lefties, they've been pretty solid over the last 30. Upton, Matuk, still too powerful for me to play against. James McCann, obviously we know his splits versus lefties. Miguel Cabrera is incredibly cheap on both sides. So if you're looking for a punt first baseman, he's even cheaper on DraftKings than Adrian Gonzalez. That would be where I go. I love Rich Hill, but not the spot I'm going to look to play him. And so I could see going with a contrarian Detroit stack. They aren't expensive on DraftKings, so I could see it. FanDuel, Miguel Cabrera is still cheap. James McCann's really cheap. Actually, even on FanDuel, they're not that expensive, so I could see it both sides here. Obviously, this Mets-Marlins game, huge rain concern. The only bat I like on New York Mets is Travis d'Arnaud, batting 5th as a catcher. Again, he was in my lineup, but with those rain concerns, can't do it. So definitely going to be fading some Travis d'Arnaud today. And then Miami, I liked attacking Chris Flexen. Love Stanton here. Love Yelich. And I like D. Gordon and Marcell Ozuna to round that out. Tomas Tellis has been playing really well if you want a punt first baseman as well. But again, rain concerns here. I will say if you play anyone from this game, you'll get them mad low ownership. I wouldn't risk the pitchers. But bats might play, so you could get them at severe ownership. Just know, however, you do run that risk. If they start this game and it doesn't get to the 5th inning, or even if it doesn't, they call it, you miss out on at bats. But if you get any points, they will be wiped off the board if they call this game before the 5th inning because it is not an official game at that point. Another game, New York-Boston, mentioned the rain concerns here. I wasn't looking to pitch either guy regardless, Montgomery or Pomeranz. So that really makes this one easy for me. I wasn't going to stack against Pomeranz here as well. I mean, honestly, this was a game fade for me the entire way. I wasn't playing Montgomery, I wasn't playing Pomeranz, and I wasn't picking bats on either side here. Todd Frazier remains way too cheap at third base if you want to go there. And then Gary Sanchez is incredibly hot right now. He has found his swing. So that would make sense. Other than that, I like Nunez and Betts, 2-man at the top, but not much else here. Pray that God smiles. I feel it. Seattle and Tampa. Erasmo Ramirez heading back to Tampa Bay. Obviously, he was traded to Seattle earlier in the year. And then Austin Pruitt, who has pitched very well, or at least decently well, since he got called up. He gets a Seattle team that is not exactly lighting people up. If we look here at the team recents, we have the Mariners right in the middle of the pack, number 14. They're holding over the last 7 a 351 WOBA and a 173 ISO. Over the last 14, a 326 WOBA and 187 ISO. So they've been consistent. Again, not blowing anyone away, not really being bad. So probably won't pitch Pruitt in this spot. But I don't think I stack against him either. Seager's back in the lineup. He's a cheap third base option, batting 5th. Cruz is consistent. He's been that way all year. That's an elite one-off play for me. And then Yonder Alonso, he really has not got it going since he moved to Seattle. Might be a spot for him here. Pruitt's been a reverse splits guy since he started up here, at least since they started accumulating stats on him this year. So, I don't know. I think I stick with Cruz, if anyone, from Seattle, and that's about it. Kevin Kiermaier makes his return today for Tampa Bay, obviously out a couple months, with, I believe, a broken hip or shin bone, one of the two. I know, obviously, very different injuries. Just couldn't remember what it was. I like 1 through 3 here. Actually, 1 through 4. I'll go 1 through 4 on Tampa. Probably won't stack them. I like Longoria on FanDuel at 2,600. He's a little too cheap. Kiermaier obviously is cheap on both sides because he hasn't been playing. And then Lucas Duda and Steven Souza, they've been playing well. Duda at 3,200 on FanDuel is cheap as well. You can get Tampa Bay really, really cheap today. Wilson Ramos, 2,300. I could see this being a cheap stack to fit a Kluber and or Max on FanDuel. DraftKings, they're not as cheap. Souza's 4,200. Dickerson's 4K. Wilson Ramos, 3,200. Again, they're not cheap enough to be that value stack, but on FanDuel they are. So could see some Tampa ownership on the FanDuel side of things. Cincinnati, Atlanta. Phillip Ervin not in the lineup today. That dude exploded yesterday. That was my punt play of the day in that early. That was, I'll just say that really, really helped. So super happy about that. Sad he's not in the lineup today against Dickey. Again, I'm going to stay true here. Dickey is just not a guy I stack against. He has limited hard contact all year, limiting fly balls. He'll give up the occasional home run, maybe 2, but he's just not a guy that's getting blown up. And so I don't see a Cincinnati stack doing too much damage here. I will say that Atlanta's bullpen is not great, if I'm not mistaken. Let me pull up the stats. So, Atlanta Braves, over the last 7 days, they have an ERA of 7.54. And over the last 14, an ERA of 4.7. Over the last 30, 5.24. So, Cincinnati might get to Atlanta's bullpen, but why is Fantasy Lab saying rain in Kansas City? I have not seen rain in Kansas City. Let me double check, though. I don't see any chance of rain in Kansas City. I see a 15% chance pretty much throughout the game. So, I'm not sure about that one. But yeah, Votto obviously elite right now. He's mad hot. Go there. Scooter Gennett, I like that play. Again, I really think you're playing to get the Atlanta bullpen here. But if you're going to stack against Dickey, it's got to be with lefties. He just doesn't really give up too many home runs to righties. So, like the lefties here a little more. Winker stays cheap on FanDuel. I could see that. Tucker Barnhart, obviously. But again, I think you're hoping to get 1 or 2 solid at bats from the bullpen here, and Dickey's just not the guy I want to attack. Sal Romano, however, this is going to be an interesting play. Atlanta, super, super bad of late. They just, besides that one game in Coors, man, they got shut down. Let me pull up the team recent stats. So Atlanta, Braves. Where they at? There we go. Braves, over the last 7 days, a 315 WOBA. Over the last 14, 298. And over the last 30, 306. Really not blowing anyone away. They do get to come home. So maybe that helps them. I think Freeman remains an elite one-off. Other than that, not really going to look too much here. Maybe Freeman Markakis if you wanted to, man. Adams is cheap on FanDuel. But it's just not a spot I think I'm going to go. Probably going to end up being a complete game fade for me again here. Chicago, Texas. I love Texas stack here. I think they're going to be chalk. At least some of the bets. It's going to be interesting to see how the ownership plays out on a slate where I'd imagine Kluber and Max will get a ton of ownership. And in fact, I think you're going to see quite a few attempts at a Kluber-Max pairing today. We obviously saw how it worked with Sale and Kluber, and it would make 100% sense to try and do it again. Both guys, at least Max, I would argue, has one of the best matchups on the slate in the Padres with his K rate, and then Kluber is just blowing dudes away. He's got a K rate over almost 40% in his last 30 with a swinging strike rate of close to 20%. So I wouldn't be surprised to try and see if people try and get both those guys in their lineup. If that's the case, you will not see Texas in people's lineups. You'll see a ton of value. But if there is going to be a chalk stack, I think it is Texas against James Shields. It makes a ton of sense. He's terrible versus both sides, but especially versus lefties. An xFIP of almost 7 against lefties here. So I'm going to stick with the usual suspects. I love Mizar Gallo 2-man. I think Odor is still too cheap on FanDuel. I like DeShields leading off. But the White Sox cannot throw anybody out on the base pass. They have one of the worst caught stealing percentages in the league. So definitely looking at some DeShields. If he gets on base, he's swiping a bag or two. And then Andrus is mad hot right now. So those are the 4 I'm looking at a lot, or 5 I should say I'm looking at a lot. I think I have all 5 on DraftKings. DeShields, Andrus, Nazar, Gallo, and Odor. And then on the White Sox, against Cashner, not a guy I really want to stack against, but I do like Abreu and Delmonico. I think we might have been a day early on the Delmonico play. He let a ton of people down yesterday. I don't know if he'll be chalk again today, but I like him in a bounce back spot here. And then Yoan Moncada, this dude is swinging a nice bat right now. Obviously, the top prospect in all of baseball. We were all over him yesterday. Talked about him on the Lock Show. I'd expect him to go out and have another decent game. He's low priced again on both sides. Luis Garcia, same thing. So 1 through 4 for Chicago is in play for me, but probably won't have all 4 together. Arizona and Minnesota. I love Zach Godley today. This dude has just been consistent since he came up, really all year. Let me read you some numbers here. Over the last 30 days, Zach Godley holds a K percentage of 27.6% with a swinging strike rate of 14%. That is 3rd best on the entire slate, only behind Max and Kluber. And it's only behind Max by 0.3% points. So definitely like Zach Godley here. His xFIP is 3.4. That's good for 4th best on the slate over the last 30 days. And over his last 14 and 7, it's actually even better. Over his last 14, he's got a strikeout rate of 24% with a swinging strike rate of 16%. So he's trended in the right direction if he can go any more up. I love this spot for him. Minnesota obviously has one of the hottest bats, at least over the last 14 days. So there is cause for concern there. And they hit righties. Their best split is at home versus righties in terms of average, ISO at 183. So there is power concern here for Minnesota, but Godley does a great job of not giving up home runs and limiting hard contact and fly balls. So I'm going to look to play him here. I think he's an elite mid-range option today, and I wouldn't even mind making him my SP1 and maybe going a Keuchel Godley play on DraftKings. You could potentially do that, get away from Kluber and Max, hope that they get blown up, and take that route. Because I won't say they have the same upside, but for the price, I think they can return similar value. And then I don't like Irvin Santana at home. He's just not a great home pitcher. Definitely better on the road. We talked about he has 5 complete game shutouts this year. All 5 are on the road. Irvin Santana at home is a thing, and it's not a good thing. So I'm going to look at some potential Arizona bats here. I'll probably end up fading the whole situation, but if I don't like a guy, I got to look and see if I want to stack against him, and that's where I look today. Jake Lamb, nothing needs to be said about him. JD Martinez, obviously. I like Ketel Marte actually a lot at that shortstop position on FanDuel, where he's 2,800. DraftKings only 35. And then Gregor Blanco, you can get a potential 2-man right there of Marte and Blanco. You know Arizona loves to steal bases. And so if those two get on, not only will they probably attempt to steal some bags, but you might even see the double steal. Arizona loves doing that. If I'm not mistaken, they've attempted that the most in the entire league, and it's not close. So both speedy guys, low, cheap options, and if they get on base, they got obviously the top of the lineup coming behind them. So potentially some cheap points from both those guys. Oakland and Houston. Talked about Dallas Keuchel. I think I'm going to play Keuchel today. I saw what I needed to in his last start, and he gets Oakland, which over the last 30 days holds a 101 ISO on the road versus lefties. They're pretty bad. We've mentioned their road woes all year, but on the road versus lefties is just dreadful. Under a 300 WOBA, home run per fly ball rate of only 7%, and they strike out a ton. Chris Davis, 30% strikeout rate versus lefties. Chad Pinder, 27. Matt Chapman, 38. Dustin Garneau, 38. Marcus Semien, 23. Right, the lowest is Rajay Davis at 17% in this lineup today. I expect Keuchel, who can limit fly balls and hard contact, while also having the ability to get some strikeouts. I think he has a great game here. It is versus all righties, which is a little concerning, as righties can get to him a little easier than lefties can. But I still like the matchup here. I think I'm going to roll with some Keuchel. I think he goes under-owned today because of the other options on the slate, which makes me like him a little more. And I mentioned Keuchel Godley, I think, could be a really nice stack or a two-man pairing of pitchers on DraftKings. And then Houston, I think we got to look at Houston against Manaea. He has been dreadful in his last couple starts. Dreadful. He holds an xFIP over his last 3 starts of 8.065. A average against him of 512 and a WOBA of 607. Houston should have their way here. At home versus lefties over the last 30, they hold an ISO of 258. I know that they've been burning people, but I think everybody's going to be on Texas today, and I think Houston could be a great pivot off of Texas for some ownership. Get some Springer, Bregman, Altuve in there. That's a wonderful 3-man. And then Max Stassi. Definitely look to get some Stassi in your lineup if you need a punt catcher, especially on FanDuel where he's 2K. 2,800 on DraftKings. His price is up a little bit, but he crushes lefties. And he's going to be their platoon guy. He's going to play against lefties while McCann and Gaddis are out. Centennial gets the righties. So definitely like a Houston stack. Cleveland, Kansas City. Not much needs to be said about Kluber here. Obviously, your pay-up options are Kluber and Max. You got to make that decision. If I'm going based off raw numbers, it's going to be Kluber. If I'm going off of matchup and who I think has the easier matchup, it's going to be Max. So that's going to be a hard one. I'll throw some numbers at you here, help you try and decide. So, over the last 30 days, Max has an xFIP of 2.86, Kluber 2.11. K rate over the last 30, Max has 35.6, Kluber 39.3. Swinging strike rate, Max 14.4, Kluber 18.3. So, again, very similar numbers, both elite numbers. And the problem with Kluber's matchup is Kansas City's lack of strikeouts. So that's the only downside I see with Kluber today is, will Kansas City strike out? Now, if he's on, he's going to be on. He can shut down any team, right? That's I always give advantage to pitcher in that situation. But Kansas City just does a good job of at least putting the ball in play. And so I don't know that Kluber's my top option. I think it's going to be Max tonight. And then as far as Cleveland against Kansas City, definitely think they're in play. I like some Lindor, some Jay Bruce, who hit a home run finally yesterday. I still like Carlos Santana over Edwin Encarnacion for the price on both sites. And then Bradley Zimmer is almost minimum salary on FanDuel. I know he's been in a deep slump right now, but Kennedy is a guy. Again, regression has hit him these last couple starts. I expect it to continue. On the season, an xFIP of 5.47 versus lefties, with an average against of 218. So none of the numbers suggest that he's been pitching well versus lefties, except that average. Cleveland could be an under-owned stack today as well, and I think they do well. Milwaukee and Colorado. Milwaukee is going 2 Coors at the perfect time for them. Over the last 7 days, they are the second hottest team in the league with a WOBA of 401 and an ISO of 279. That 279 ISO over the last 7 days is tops in all of baseball. The second best is 246 of the White Sox. So they're leading that category by a wide margin, and they get the best park to hit in. Definitely going to fade some Marquez today. Has the strikeout matchup for sure, and he has strikeout stuff, but I don't think he gets. I think he gets hit a little hard today. I love Thames leading off. Thames, Walker, Shaw is my favorite 3-man, I think. They're expensive, obviously, on both sides. You know you're paying for it, but I like those 3 a lot on both sides today. And then Colorado against Garza, another guy, regression hitting him hard. I think this has a game stack written all over it, really. Blackman, Para, Reynolds. You can play Cargo. He's cheap-ish for where he usually would be. Lucroy is cheap-ish. I'm not playing Trevor Story. I'm not buying that. LeMahieu's consistent. Arenado, obviously. So I think this has game stack written all over it. I really do. And again, I think that goes under-owned because of the pitching on this slate. So if you fade Max and Kluber, I think you can get some of the bats that no one else is going to be able to get. Washington and San Diego, we got Max Scherzer and Luis Perdomo. Again, Max is just that matchup play for me. His stats are pretty identical to Kluber. A little lower strikeouts and swinging strike rate, but not enough to throw me off of Max. And he gets the strikeout matchup, right? He also has, I wouldn't say the better park. It's in Kansas City, so pretty equal parks in my opinion for pitchers. I'm definitely going to look at some Max today. I think if I'm paying up, that's where I go. I probably won't pay up to either, to be honest with you. I think Keuchel is as high as I go for a starting pitcher tonight. But definitely like Max in this spot. Again, I think Max could outscore Kluber. It could be close. They both could go 40 DraftKings points, 60 FanDuel points. But I think if I have to pick, it's going to be Max. And then Luis Perdomo, not been pitching well of late, but pitches better at home. Washington just not the same team without Bryce. Probably going to fade Perdomo, but also fade Washington bats. I think this late slate is a little iffy on bats. And finally, we got Philly and San Fran. Zach Eflin, not going to play him today. I actually like Matt Moore a little more on DraftKings. He's the cheapest pitcher on the entire slate. Now, before everybody jumps at my head, let me give you some stats on Matt Moore, which is why I think he's deserving of a play as the cheapest pitcher on the slate. Last 30 days, xFIP of 3.85. Decent. Respectable for his price. K rate of 25% versus the Phillies, who we know can strike out. Over the last 14 days, it's gotten better. He's got a strikeout rate of 29% with an xFIP of 2.65. Fantastic. And in his last start, even better, an xFIP of 2.1 with a strikeout rate of 35%. So clearly trending in the right direction right now. Not a FanDuel play for me, but a DraftKings play, absolutely. I think he is the pitcher to pair with Max and Kluber. And on DraftKings, if you want those two late-night hammers coming in at pitcher, I think Max and Moore is perfect. If you can get the bats you want, set yourself up and have these two guys coming in. I think both, we obviously know what Max can do, and if Moore just has a decent game, he sets you up. So definitely like some Matt Moore in this spot. Zach Eflin, not a guy I'm going to pitch. Don't think I play any San Francisco bats. The Giants just aren't a good team. So probably going to fade that situation. But Jarrett Parker will be an elite one-off, in my opinion, from this game against Eflin, who does struggle versus lefties and has a home run problem with it. Me and Rob are on the same page. That's always a good thing. Rob is a guy that's always in the top of these GPPs. This guy represents really, really well. So I'm happy to hear that you're on more with me, man. So that's where I am at, guys. Pitchers I'm looking at again, Dallas Keuchel, Zach Godley, Max and Kluber, obviously, and then Matt Moore is going to be that pay-down option for me. Love him there. My favorite stacks, of course, I like Los Angeles. I like Chicago. I like Texas more than Chicago. I love a Milwaukee-Colorado game stack, and I think a Houston stack is going to do some damage with low ownership. People are starting to get off that train, and I think now is the perfect time to jump on versus Manaea. So that is where I'm at. As always, if you guys would like access to these on the daily and all the write-ups, I'm going to go into River right now, do that pitch or that stack write-up for you guys. Hit that link down below. Join us. Get with the Phenoms, win some money, chop it up with some of the best minds in DFS. And we'll take care of you. And, of course, NFL's coming. So, appreciate you guys tuning in, as always. And make it a profitable Friday. Look forward to seeing those screenshots of the cash. So, have a phenomenal night, and we'll see you tonight.